Right, as we see those live pictures at the footsteps of the White House, where Joe Biden, the outgoing U.S. president, has welcomed his successor, Donald Trump, who will be sworn in and inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. You can see their respective spouses as well. Dr. Jill Biden, the outgoing First Lady, welcoming the incoming First Lady, Melania Trump. So the Trumps and the Bidens, they are familiar figures. Remember in 2020, Biden beat Trump and won the election. That was 4 years ago. In the 2024 election, of course, it was supposed to be again Biden versus Trump, a rematch, but then Biden pulled out of the race, citing his advanced health and, of course, mental condition as well. Kamala Harris, who was the incumbent vice president, then challenged Donald Trump, but she lost that election on the 5th of November last year, and now Donald Trump becomes the President of the United States yet again, to be sworn in as the 47th President in an hour and a half's time from now. Donald Trump is all set to be inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States at a victory rally at the Capital One Arena last night. He's already claimed credit for the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. He, of course, has his task cut out, already having said that he will end the war between Russia and Ukraine, and, of course, these mass tariffs that he plans to impose on countries like China that export into the United States, as well as countries in Europe. How could Trump and his presidency, his second term, how could it possibly rupture existing fault lines between America and its various allies? I'm now joined by Stephen Erlanger. He's the chief diplomatic correspondent in Europe for the New York Times. Thank you very much, Mr. Erlanger, for speaking with us. Let me start with what Trump said last night at his victory rally. He's already claimed credit for the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel. Do you reckon, though, that the ceasefire will last and that we could be moving in a direction of a permanent peace?
Well, we can hope so. Trump naturally called everything he does epic, so this was an epic ceasefire. The problem is it's just a ceasefire. The war is not over. They won't even begin to negotiate the real deal that needs to be done, the second phase of the agreement, for another 2 weeks. A lot can go wrong. The Israeli government of Benjamin Netanyahu is under a great deal of pressure from his more far-right allies to continue the war, to find some excuse to say that Hamas has broken the ceasefire. And Netanyahu has stressed that the agreement allows him to resume the war if Israel decides to. So it is very shaky. Obviously, the Israelis want to get their hostages home, dead and alive, and but to end the war, to get through the second phase, would require Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, from all these buffer zones and security zones that they've already established. So it's going to be a hard road, let alone releasing thousands of Palestinian prisoners, some of whom obviously are guilty of killing Israelis, many of whom are not. And for Hamas, you know, this can feel a bit like a victory, partly because despite the death and destruction it caused by starting this war, it's still there, and Israel has refused to discuss what might take its place inside Gaza. So Hamas feels free to reestablish its control there.
I do want to ask you about the Russia-Ukraine war. Trump did say multiple times during the campaign that he will end the war between Russia and Ukraine on day one of his presidency. That hasn't come to pass yet. How easy or difficult would it be to cut a deal between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, it's hard because both sides need to want to do a deal. Now, I think Ukraine wants to have a serious discussion, partly because it wants to stay on Trump's good side. It needs U.S. help. But to convince Vladimir Putin to end the war, a war he believes that he is winning, a war where he believes Russia will outlast Western support for Ukraine, morale in Ukraine is bad, Ukraine's slowly losing territory in the east. To convince Putin to stop, I think, is going to be very difficult. Now, Trump is, a convincer. I'm sure there'll be a meeting. There'll be a lot of us following this meeting. between Putin and Trump. But I don't think you can solve the war over the heads of the Ukrainians. And it could be this big meeting doesn't actually result in anything terribly substantive. It's a terribly difficult problem. No one ever believed he was going to end the war in a day, not even Trump. But now they're talking about 100 days. Even that seems fairly optimistic. Because the big question is, okay, you can end the war, ideally. Then how do you protect Ukraine forever from another intervention by Russia 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road? And that's a very delicate problem.
I do want to talk about America and Europe under Trump. In his first term, he did sort of crib about the Europeans not contributing enough to NATO, not taking care of their security enough. In recent weeks, we've seen Elon Musk, somebody who's going to be a very powerful figure in the Trump administration, publicly going after elected governments in Britain, in France, even in Germany. He's thrown his support behind the far-right AfD party. How do you see America-Europe ties and the fault line in those ties playing itself out in Trump's second term?
Well, it's very odd for her to see America going after its allies before it goes after its enemies, I have to say. The big question, and we're all wondering, is how long Trump will put up with Elon Musk. Already Steve Bannon wants Musk banned from the White House, and Musk has his own agenda. I mean, he's pushing against the Europeans partly for his own business reasons. I mean, Brussels is famous for its regulations, and it wants to regulate things like X and Instagram more. So he says he believes in free speech, of course, but what he wants to do is not get regulated. And he's been going after basically left and center-left governments. I mean, not even center-right governments. I mean, Keir Starmer, Olaf Scholz, and, you know, maybe it's hard to tell. I mean, he seems in this weird way, like Bannon did, to try to create some kind of far-right alliance. But I think it's going to be very difficult. I think Europe, after the first Trump term, has actually thought pretty hard about what to do. And of course, you have to wait to see what actually happens, like tariffs. I mean, Trump's claims he's going to put 20% tariffs on everything, which would hugely raise prices for Americans. And of course, the Europeans have already drawn up their own potential counter tariffs on things that the Americans care about. Right. And so we're going to have this kind of battle when, in fact, really sometimes you think the United States should really be talking about Russia and China, not annoying the Danes.
All right, Stephen Erlanger, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us. Stephen Erlanger there, Chief Diplomatic Correspondent for Europe with the New York Times. Some domestic news now. On the 9th of August last year, a postgraduate trainee was raped, tortured and murdered inside a seminar hall of the RG Kaur Medical College Hospital in Kolkata. What followed was a nationwide cry for justice. People from all walks of life joined in to demand justice for another of India's daughters who had been wronged. But a 5-month relentless fight seems to have gone in vain, because today the accused Sanjay Roy escaped the gallows. A sessions court in Bengal sentenced the man convicted of rape and murder to life unto death. Here's what happened in the courtroom today. The CBI claimed that this was one of the rarest of rare cases, which is a criteria for awarding the death penalty. The CBI pushed for the death penalty for Sanjay Roy. The accused lawyer, on the other hand, pled that the client was innocent and was rather being framed, while Abhaya's parents, the victim's parents, maintain that the investigation is only half done and that the other accused in the case is still at large. The CBI claimed that the death penalty will bring back society's faith. The accused, however, continued to claim that he was tortured and not allowed to speak, and that he was not the one behind this heinous crime. The parents appealed to the court for death penalty. The CBI appealed to the court that there must be a degree of confidence that must be restored in society, that justice must be done. Into the White House, and then in a few minutes Donald Trump and his wife Melania Trump will be greeted by Joe Biden and his wife Dr. Jill Biden and they will be taken inside the White House. And eventually, for the swearing-in ceremony, which is expected to happen post 10 p.m. India time, the Bidens will ride with the Trumps to the Capitol Rotunda building. The ceremony has been shifted indoors because of the snowstorm that is expected to hit Washington, D.C. So let me go across as we stay on these live pictures. I want to first go across to my colleague Sanjay Suri, who is joining us live from Washington, D.C. First of all, just paint the picture for us. You're outside the Capitol Hill. Of course, the inauguration traditionally happens at the forecourt or the steps right outside the Capitol Hill, but this time it's been moved back indoors because of the snowstorm. What can we expect in the next couple of hours?
Well, there's going to be a number of ceremonies underway, and a lot of these are, of course, traditional. We have the church service that you were describing. Then the president-elect will go to White House, and together with Biden will move down Pennsylvania Avenue right to Capitol Hill here. That is a traditional move to show and to demonstrate to the world that the transition has been smooth. It wasn't so last time because Joe Biden came on his own to Capitol Hill. Trump did not accompany him. This time Biden will be with Trump, and of course they're going to come to Capitol Hill here, and that's where the inauguration will happen. And the inauguration, of course, is ceremonial. It's just a one-line really oath that he will defend the Constitution and carry out his duties faithfully. But what's going to happen will be explosive starting straight after that, Zaga, because it's not going to be a moment to lose really for Trump. Quite literally, straight after the oath taking, he will begin to issue many of those orders that you've been describing. He will not even wait for lunch. So we're going to have a rush of orders straight away, straight after the inauguration.
All right, Sanjay, stay on with us. I also want to go across to CNN's Rafael Romo, who's joining us live from the U.S. Capitol. So as Sanjay, my colleague, was saying a moment ago, Rafael, Trump has said that he's planning to sign over 100 executive orders on day one itself. Do we have any idea on what these executive orders could be?
Yes, we do. Donald Trump is expected to issue a long list of executive orders in the next few hours as he begins his second term in the White House. The president-elect himself said last night during a rally that it's close to 100 executive orders, and according to a top advisor, those executive orders include actions on immigration, energy, and the shape of government in major metropolitan areas. Immigration raids could begin almost immediately as the new president follows through on campaign promises to deport undocumented migrants. Inside jail cells, January 6, 2021, defendants will await word on pardons, which Trump has promised to sign as soon as he returned to power. The third possibility is that Trump will impose tariffs on countries like China and others, including close partners and neighbors like Mexico and Canada. So that's what he's talking about.
Rafael, so we've seen the first term of Trump between 2017 and 2021, extremely disruptive, particularly on the global arena. Now he has two ongoing wars, one between Israel and Hamas and another between Russia and Ukraine. How do you think the second Trump term, would it be more disruptive on the global stage than his first term?
Well, it remains to be seen, but this is what we know. One Trump advisor told CNN that they just want to come in and show just how serious they are, adding that Trump is back and it's go time, describing the new government as, quote, a shock to the system. What this means in theory is that the new Trump government will be a sharp break, not only from the last 4 years, but also from the chaos that governed the early days of Trump's first go around. Just to give you an idea, Trump promised to end birthright citizenship, but that would require changing the Constitution, which is not something that can be accomplished in a single day.
All right, Rafael Romo for CNN reporting for us tonight. Thank you very much for joining us, overlooking, of course, the iconic Washington Monument right behind him. Sanjay is still with us, and I want to focus on what a second Trump...
Ladies and gentlemen, former Senate Majority Leader, the Honorable Mitch McConnell, accompanied by the Honorable Elaine Chao. Ladies and gentlemen, former speakers of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy, the Honorable John Boehner, accompanied by Mrs. Debbie Boehner, the Honorable Newt Gingrich, accompanied by Ambassador Callista Gingrich, and Mrs. Heather Foley.
First Lady will come out and go down this ramp, and then the two of them will go together. But I don't know if they'll go after.
Is our king all ready to go?
party going to go separately? Like they're going to go be in the door into the windows right here? Like
Yes.
Spouses.
Spouses will go first. The second spouses will go
Okay, so
first.
everybody will go in right here.
Everybody's going to go, one car at a time. They'll fill up and leave. The next one comes up.
Okay.
Not yet. Where you coming?
Goes all the way.
Usually the cars pull forward for the group photo, and they didn't.
You guys know who these are?
Mine and his.
That's all right.
If you do, you can pick it up and just put it in the bushes. We'll take care of it. They're coming out.